The arena stretched across 5 miles of blood-soaked sand. Emperor Thaskmor watched from his golden throne as the gates opened and 100 small creatures stumbled into the sunlight. They were blue-skinned with 4 arms, and they moved in, tight groups like frightened animals. Thaskmor's massive reptilian form shifted on the throne. His scales caught the light of 3 suns and his yellow eyes tracked every movement below. Today was his grandson's first hunt. Today, young Prince Vectar would prove he was a true predator. "Release the hunters," Thaskmor commanded. 10 young Karathi nobles dropped from the arena walls. Each one was 12 feet tall with razor-sharp claws and teeth like daggers. Their scales were darker than the Emperor's, marking them as the next generation of apex predators. They moved with the deadly grace that had made the Karathi the rulers of 1,000 worlds. Prince Vectar led the group. His electromagnetic senses picked up the fear radiating from the prey creatures. He could taste their terror in the air, hear their rapid heartbeats, smell their sweat. This was what it meant to be Karathi. This was what it meant to be at the top of the food chain. The blue creatures tried to run. They always did. Some climbed the arena walls, others huddled together in the center. A few tried to hide behind the scattered rocks that dotted the sand. It made no difference. There was nowhere to go. Vectar pounced on the first group. His claws sliced through soft flesh like it was paper. The creatures screamed, but the sound only excited him more. Around the arena, the other young predators were having their own fun. Some played with their prey before the kill. Others made it quick. All of them enjoyed it. "Excellent form," said War Commander Zethkar, standing beside the Emperor's throne. "The prince shows real promise." Thaskmor nodded. "He was born to hunt." Like all true Karathi, in the arena, the last of the blue creatures fell. The young nobles roared in triumph, their voices echoing off the arena walls. The crowd of Karathi, spectators roared back. This was their way. This was how it had always been. The galaxy was simple. There were predators, and there was prey. The strong ruled, and the weak served. The Karathi Empire had been built on this truth for 10,000 years. Thaskmor remembered his own first hunt. He had been younger than Vectar, barely 8 feet. Tall, but already deadly. The prey had been different then. Green creatures with 6 legs who tried to burrow into the sand. He had dug them out one by one, savoring their fear. That was how he learned what he was. That was how he learned his place in the universe. Now he ruled an empire that stretched across half the galaxy. Hundreds of worlds bowed to Karathi might. Thousands of species served as food, labor, or entertainment. It was the natural order. The strong survived and the weak existed only to serve the strong. The arena was being cleaned now. Mechanical drones swept up the remains while medical teams tended to the few young nobles who had minor injuries. Not from fighting, the prey had been harmless, just from their own enthusiasm during the hunt. "Sir," said a communication officer approaching the throne, "we have received reports from the Outer Rim Scouts." "Speak," Thaskmor commanded. "Long-range sensors have detected unusual energy signatures from Sector 779. It appears to be an unexplored system with signs of technological activity." War Commander Zethkar stepped forward. "What kind of activity?" "Unknown, sir. The patterns don't match any known predator or prey civilizations. The signals suggest advanced technology, but the energy signatures are strange." Thaskmor's interest was stirred. New worlds meant new prey. New prey meant new hunting grounds. The Empire was always expanding, always claiming fresh territory. That was how predators lived, by taking what they wanted, organize an exploration. "Fleet," he ordered. "I want to know what we're dealing with." "Yes, Emperor. Should we prepare a conquest armada as well?" "Not yet. First, we learn if they're predators or prey. If they're predators, we negotiate territory. If they're prey," he gestured toward the arena where cleaning crews were still working, "we add them to our hunting grounds." The communication officer bowed and left. Prince Vectar approached the throne, still covered in the blue blood of his victims. His eyes glowed with the satisfaction of a successful hunt. "Grandfather, will there be more hunts today?" Not today, young one, but perhaps soon we will have new prey to test your skills against. The prince's eyes brightened. New prey? What are they like? We don't know yet. But it doesn't matter. Prey is prey. They all fall before true predators. Thaskamore looked out over his empire's capital city. Massive towers stretched toward the sky, each one a monument to Karathi power. Ships moved between the buildings, carrying goods and slaves from across the galaxy. At the city's heart stood the Great Pyramid, where the skulls of 1,000,000 prey creatures were displayed. This was civilization, this was order. The strong ruled, the weak served, and everyone knew their place. Other predator species served in his military and government. The Vorthok, with their hive-mind hunting tactics, commanded his ground forces. The Skalani, masters of stealth and poison, ran his intelligence networks. The Threnodi, whose sonic attacks could shatter bone, served as his enforcers. Each species brought their own hunting skills to the Empire. Each one understood the basic truth of existence: might makes right. The prey species were useful too in their own way. The Halani were excellent builders. The Quyth had nimble fingers perfect for delicate work. The Morlocks were strong enough to move heavy equipment. All of them bred quickly, ensuring a steady supply for both labor and food. It was a perfect system. Predators at the top, prey at the bottom, everyone serving their natural purpose. Sir, War Commander Zethkar said, the exploration fleet is being prepared. War Commander Velnos will lead the mission. Good. Tell her to be thorough. I want complete scans of the system, population estimates, technological assessment, military capabilities, everything. And if they resist? Thaskamore's laugh was like the rumble of distant thunder. Prey always resists at first, that's what makes the hunt interesting. As the three suns set over the capital, Thaskamore remained on his throne, thinking about the unknown signals from the outer rim. In 10,000 years of expansion, the Empire had encountered hundreds of species. Some had been fellow predators who joined willingly or were conquered. Most had been prey who learned their place quickly. None had ever been a real challenge. The galaxy was vast, but it followed simple rules. The strong conquered the weak. Predators hunted prey. The natural order was maintained. Tomorrow, his scouts would investigate these new signals. Soon, he would know if they had found new allies or new victims. Either way, the Empire would grow stronger. The Emperor of 1,000 worlds settled back on his throne and dreamed of new hunts to come. In his mind, he could already hear the screams of whatever creatures waited in that distant system. He could taste their fear, feel their terror as they realized what they were facing. After all, prey was prey, and predators like him had ruled the galaxy since time began. Nothing would ever change that simple truth. War Commander Velnos stood on the bridge of her flagship as it dropped out of hyperspace. The unknown system spread before them on the main screen, a yellow star with several planets orbiting it. The third planet from the star glowed blue and green, clearly alive with oceans and continents. Sensor report, she commanded. Massive biological activity on the third planet, her scanner operator reported. Millions of different species. The dominant life form appears to be concentrated in large settlements across the planet's surface. Velnos studied the readings. The energy signatures that had attracted their attention were coming from this world. Whoever lived here had technology, but the patterns were unlike anything in the Empire's databases. Show me the dominant species. The main screen flickered, showing images captured by their long-range scanners. Velnos stared in confusion at what she saw. The creatures were small, maybe 6 feet tall at most. They had soft pink or brown skin with no visible scales, claws, or natural weapons. Their teeth were tiny, their eyes faced forward like predators, but they had no real fangs. Are you certain these are the dominant species? She asked. Yes, Commander. They appear to control most of the planet's surface. They've built massive cities and have primitive spacecraft. Velnos shook her head. They looked like prey animals, but prey didn't build cities or develop technology. That was impossible. Only predators had the intelligence and drive needed for civilization. Perhaps they're livestock for the real dominant species, suggested her science officer. Maybe the true predators keep them as we keep the Halani. Then, where are the predators? Velnos demanded. I see no signs of any other intelligent species on this world. The bridge crew exchanged confused looks. In 10,000 years of expansion, they had never encountered anything like this. Species were either predators or prey. There was no middle ground. Commander, the communications officer called out. We're receiving transmissions from the planet, multiple languages, but our computers are starting to translate them. What are they saying? Most of it appears to be entertainment broadcasts, but some seem to be military communications. They've detected our fleet. Velnos felt a moment of surprise. Their ships were equipped with the best stealth technology in the galaxy. Prey species had never been able to detect a Karathi fleet before the attack began. Perhaps their sensors are more advanced than expected, she mused. No matter. Follow standard first contact protocol for prey worlds. Send a demonstration fleet to their major population centers. Once they see our power, they'll surrender quickly. 3. Hours later, Karathi warships appeared in the skies above New York, London, Tokyo, and a dozen other major cities. The ships were magnificent, mile-long vessels bristling with weapons, their dark hulls gleaming in the sunlight. They had been designed to inspire terror, and they had never failed to do so. Velnos watched the feeds from the surface, waiting for the usual response. Panic in the streets, governments calling for immediate surrender, military forces laying down their weapons. It was the same pattern on every prey world. Instead, she saw something impossible. The creatures, the humans, according to their intercepted communications, were not surrendering. Military forces were mobilizing. Fighter aircraft were launching from bases around the world. Ships were moving to defensive positions. Commander, her weapons officer reported, we're being targeted by multiple surface-based weapon systems. Impossible, Velnos said. They're prey animals. They don't have the courage to... Her words were cut off as the first missiles struck her demonstration fleet. The humans had somehow coordinated attacks from multiple locations at once, timing their strikes to hit several ships simultaneously. 2 Karathi destroyers took heavy damage. One of them actually crashed into the ocean near what the humans called Japan. Return fire, Velnos ordered. Show them what happens when prey attacks predators. The Karathi ships opened fire with their plasma cannons, targeting the human military bases. Buildings exploded in balls of superheated gas. But instead of running in terror, the humans kept fighting. More missiles streaked toward the Karathi ships. Fighter aircraft swarmed around them like angry insects. Velnos watched in growing bewilderment as something unprecedented happened. The humans were using coordinated tactics. They fought like a pack, with each unit supporting the others. But only predator species fought in coordinated packs. Prey animals ran or hid. They didn't organize resistance. Commander, her science officer called out. The humans have shot down another of our ships. Velnos turned to stare at him. What did you say? The destroyer Fang of Korth has been destroyed. The humans used some kind of electronic warfare to disable its shields, then hit it with coordinated missile strikes. This was impossible. In 10,000 years of conquest, no prey species had ever destroyed a Karathi warship. Not one. Prey didn't have the intelligence, the courage, or the coordination needed to bring down a predator vessel. All ships, withdraw. To safe distance, she ordered. I need time to think. The Karathi fleet pulled back to the edge of the solar system. Velnos stared at the tactical displays, trying to understand what she had just witnessed. The humans had fought like predators, but they looked like prey. They had used advanced tactics and coordination, but they had no natural weapons. Capture some of them, she finally decided. Bring me live specimens. I need to understand what we're dealing with. The next day, Karathi stealth ships landed near isolated human settlements. They expected easy captures, confused, terrified prey animals who would submit without resistance. Instead, they found humans who fought like cornered predators. Even when outnumbered and outgunned, they didn't run. They organized defensive positions, coordinated their fire, and fought to protect each other. Most disturbing of all, they showed pack loyalty. Humans would risk their lives to save other humans, even ones they barely knew. That was predator behavior. Prey animals looked out for themselves. Eventually, the Karathi managed to capture a dozen human soldiers, but it cost them more casualties than any prey-gathering mission in their history. 3 Karathi warriors were killed, and 7 more were wounded. The prisoners were brought to Velnos for interrogation. She studied them through the energy cage that held them. They were definitely prey-like in appearance. Soft skin, small, teeth, no claws or scales. But their eyes held something she had never seen in prey before. They weren't afraid. Oh, they were scared. She could smell their adrenaline and hear their rapid heartbeats. But they weren't terrified into submission like proper prey should be. They watched her with calculating eyes, looking for weaknesses, planning escape attempts. "What are you?" she asked them through the translation device. One of the prisoners, a female with short brown hair, stepped forward. "We're humans, and you just made a big mistake." "You're prey animals," Velnos said. "Your species shows all the biological markers of a prey race, yet you fight like predators. How is this possible?" The human smiled, showing those tiny, harmless teeth. "Maybe your biology lessons are wrong. Maybe there's a third option you never considered." Velnos felt a chill run down her spine. In the Empire's entire history, there had only been 2 types of species: predators who ruled, and prey who served. The idea that there might be something else was impossible to accept. "You will serve the Empire," she told the prisoners. "Your world will become a hunting ground. Your people will learn their proper place in the natural order." The female human laughed. "You really don't understand what you're dealing with, do you? We're not going to serve anyone, and we're not going to let you hurt our people. You have no choice. You're prey." "No," the human said, still smiling. "We're not prey. We're not predators either, the way you understand them. We're something your empire has never encountered before. We're humans. And we're about to show you what that means." Velnos left the prisoners and returned to her command center. She had to report to Emperor Thaskmor, but she wasn't sure what to tell him. How could she explain that they had found prey animals who fought like predators? How could she describe creatures who showed pack loyalty but had no natural weapons? "Open a channel to Apex Prime," she ordered. When the Emperor's image appeared on her screen, Velnos took a deep breath. "Your Majesty, I have encountered the unknown species. Are they predators or prey?" Velnos hesitated. I'm not certain, Your Majesty. They appear to be prey animals, but they fight like predators. They've actually destroyed several of our ships." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "Prey animals destroyed Karathi warships?" "Yes, Your Majesty. They fight in coordinated groups and show pack loyalty behaviors. They appear to be broken somehow, neither fully predator nor fully prey." For a long moment, the Emperor said nothing. Then his voice came through the comm, cold and dangerous. "Broken things are often the most dangerous. Bring me more information, War Commander. I need to understand what we're facing." The transmission ended, leaving Velnos alone with her confusion and growing unease. In the holding cells below, the human prisoners were already planning their escape. Something told her that this was just the beginning. Emperor Thaskmor stood before the War Council in his great hall. The holographic display showed the human homeworld spinning slowly in the center of the room. Around the table sat the greatest military minds in the Empire, war commanders from every major predator species. "These humans have destroyed 7 of our ships," he announced. "They fight like predators but appear to be prey. I want explanations." War Commander Zethkar activated his own display. "Our analysis suggests they are a malformed species, Your Majesty. Their biology indicates prey evolution, but their behavior suggests predator psychology. They may be the result of some evolutionary accident." "Accidents don't destroy Karathi warships," growled Thaskmor. From across the table, War Commander Hiska of the Skelani spoke up. Her voice was soft but deadly. "Perhaps they were engineered by another predator species, created as weapons. We've found no evidence of any other intelligent species in their system," Zethkar replied. "They appear to have developed on their own." Thaskamore studied the rotating image of Earth. Then we will treat them as a predator threat. Mobilize a conquest armada, 500 ships. I want this mystery solved and this threat eliminated. The War Council dispersed to prepare for the largest military operation in decades, but in a research lab on War Commander Velnos's flagship, Dr. Veltar was making discoveries that would change everything. The Karathi scientist studied tissue samples from the captured humans under her most powerful microscopes. What she found made no sense according to everything she knew about evolution and biology. The humans showed all the physical markers of prey species: soft skin, small teeth, no natural weapons. But their brain structure was different. The areas that controlled pack coordination were massively overdeveloped. The regions that handled fear response were smaller than in most prey, but the sections that processed protective instincts were enormous. They're not predators as we understand them, she muttered to herself. But they're not prey either. They're something else entirely. She pulled up comparative brain scans from other species in the Empire. Predator brains showed large areas devoted to individual survival, hunting instincts, and dominance behaviors. Prey brains emphasized fear responses, escape reflexes, and individual flight patterns. Human brains were different. They had small, individual survival centers, but massive areas devoted to group coordination, long-term planning, and most surprisingly, empathy responses toward other species. "This is impossible," she whispered. But the evidence was right there in front of her. Meanwhile, on Earth, something unprecedented was happening. For the first time in human history, every nation was working together. The alien attack had done what centuries of diplomacy could not. It had united the species against a common threat. In underground bunkers around the world, human scientists worked frantically to understand the captured alien technology. In military bases, soldiers trained for a war unlike any in human history. In factories, assembly lines that once built cars and computers now produced weapons and spacecraft. President Chen of the United Earth Council addressed the world from her command bunker. "We now know we are not alone in the universe. We also know that the galaxy contains species who see us as nothing more than prey animals to be hunted for sport." The footage from the captured Karathi ship showed the arena on Apex Prime, the hunting ceremonies, the billions of beings kept as livestock across the Empire. Humanity had learned that first contact was not with fellow explorers or peaceful neighbors. It was with the galaxy's apex predators. "They think we're prey," President Chen continued. "They think we'll submit to them like every other species they've conquered. They're about to learn they made a mistake." Colonel Sarah Chen, the president's daughter and a decorated military officer, stood in the briefing room of Lunar Command. Earth's moon had been converted into the largest military base in human history. She studied the intelligence reports from the captured aliens. "They're bringing 500 ships," reported General Martinez. "Our scouts confirm a massive fleet moving toward Earth." "Good," Sarah said. "Let them come." "Good?" General Martinez looked at her in surprise. "Sarah, we barely survived their first attack. This is their main fleet." Sarah smiled grimly. "The first attack taught us something important, sir. They don't know how to fight us. They expected us to surrender like their other victims. They expected prey behavior." She activated the tactical display. "They fight like individual predators. Each ship operates independently, each warrior seeks personal glory. They're designed to hunt scattered, terrified prey." "And we're not scattered or terrified," Martinez realized. "Exactly. We fight as a unit. Every ship, every pilot, every soldier operates as part of a larger organism. They've never faced anything like that." 3 weeks later, the Karathi conquest armada arrived at Earth. Emperor Thaskamore himself commanded the fleet from his massive flagship. He expected this to be a routine conquest, overwhelming force applied to a confused prey species. Instead, he found Earth's entire solar system turned into a fortress. The humans had used the time wisely. The asteroid belt bristled with weapons platforms. Jupiter's moons housed massive shipyards where human vessels rolled off production lines around the clock. Mars had become a forward military base. Most shocking of all, The human fleet was waiting for them. Where the first encounter had featured a few hundred human aircraft, now there were thousands of ships. They weren't as large or powerful as Karathi vessels individually, but they moved with perfect coordination. "Your Majesty," reported his sensor operator, "the human fleet is moving in perfect formation. Every ship responds to course changes simultaneously. It's like they share a single mind." Taskmore studied the tactical display. The human ships moved like a school of fish or a flock of birds, thousands of individual units acting as one organism. It was predator-pack behavior taken to an impossible extreme. "Attack formation," he ordered. "Show them the might of the Empire." The Karathi fleet spread out in hunting formation, each ship seeking individual targets. But as they approached, something unexpected happened. The human ships began to dance. They moved in three-dimensional spirals around the Karathi fleet, staying just out of optimal weapons range while launching coordinated missile strikes. When the Karathi ships turned to pursue individual targets, they found themselves flying into crossfire from multiple directions. "They're using our hunting instincts against us," Taskmore realized with growing horror. "Every time we pursue one target, we expose ourselves to the others." The Battle of Luna lasted 6 hours. When it was over, nearly half the Karathi fleet was destroyed or disabled. The humans had lost ships too, but they had won a decisive victory. Taskmore retreated with the survivors, his mind reeling. In 10,000 years of conquest, the Empire had never suffered a defeat like this. How had prey animals destroyed the greatest fleet in galactic history? Back in her laboratory, Dr. Veltar was beginning to understand. She had been studying the captured human soldiers, and what she learned terrified her. "They're persistence hunters," she said to War Commander Felnos. "Do you understand what that means?" "Explain." "Most predators are ambush hunters or pursuit hunters. They rely on speed, strength, or stealth to take down prey quickly. But persistence hunters are different. They chase their prey over long distances, wearing them down through endurance and coordination." Velnos frowned. "So they're just another type of predator?" "No." Dr. Veltar's voice was urgent. "You don't understand. Persistence hunters on most worlds are individuals. But humans evolved pack persistence hunting. They coordinate groups across vast distances and long time periods. And here's the terrifying part. They can extend pack loyalty to other species." "What do you mean?" Dr. Veltar pulled up recordings from the battle. "Watch how they fight. They don't just protect other humans. Their pilots died protecting spacecraft from the liberated worlds we passed through. They extended their pack instincts to include beings they'd never met before." The implications hit Velnos like a physical blow. "You mean they could turn our prey species against us?" "Worse than that," Dr. Veltar whispered. "They could turn the entire galaxy into their pack. They're not just another predator species. They're something that could end the natural order itself." On Earth, President Chen was addressing the United Nations one more time. Behind her, the holographic display showed not just Earth, but images from throughout the galaxy. The prey species, in their pens, the hunting ceremonies, the billions of beings living in slavery. "We've learned that Earth is not the first world they've attacked," she said. "There are hundreds of species throughout the galaxy living as their prey. Some have been enslaved for thousands of years." She paused, letting that sink in. "We have a choice. We can fortify our own world and hope they leave us alone. Or we can do what humans have always done when faced with bullies and slavers. We can fight back, not just for ourselves, but for everyone." The vote was unanimous. Humanity had found its purpose in the galaxy. They weren't just going to defend Earth. They were going to liberate everyone. The war for the galaxy was about to begin, and the Karathi Empire had no idea what they had awakened. The first liberation began on a world called Helix 7, 3 months after the Battle of Luna. War Commander Vorthak was overseeing the monthly culling ceremony when the impossible happened. His prey animals fought back. The Helani had been model prey for 800 years. Four-armed, blue-skinned, and naturally docile, they built the Empire's greatest structures and bred quickly enough to supply both labor and food. They had never shown any sign of rebellion. But that morning, as the selection process began for the monthly hunt, The Halani workers didn't line up submissively as they always had. Instead, they formed defensive groups and refused to cooperate. "What is the meaning of this?" Vorthak demanded of the Halani work leader. "You will select the tribute for today's hunt, or we will select for you." The Halani raised all four of his arms in a gesture Vorthak had never seen before. "No more hunts, no more tributes. We have learned that prey can become predators." Before Vorthak could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Human ships had appeared in orbit, broadcasting a message on all frequencies. "People of Helix 7, came the voice of Colonel Sarah Chen. "This is the Human Liberation Fleet. You are not alone anymore. Today, your slavery ends." Vorthak watched in horror as human soldiers landed throughout his compound. But they weren't attacking the Karathi installations first. They were freeing the Halani prisoners, establishing defensive positions around the civilian areas, and distributing weapons to creatures who had been prey for 8 centuries. The liberation of Helix 7 lasted 3 days. When it was over, every Karathi on the planet was dead and the Halani were free. But most disturbing to the Empire was how it had happened. The humans fought differently than any predator species in galactic history. Individual human soldiers died protecting Halani civilians they had never met. Human pilots crashed their ships into Karathi positions to prevent harm to alien prey species. They fought with the coordination of a hive mind, but the individual sacrifice of the most devoted pack hunters. Emperor Thaskmor studied the battle reports from his throne room, trying to understand what he was facing. "They treat every intelligent being as part of their pack," he said to War Commander Zethkar. "How is this possible?" "Dr. Veltar believes it has to do with their evolution," Zethkar replied. "They developed empathy as a survival trait. But instead of limiting it to their own species, they can extend it to any intelligent being. That should make them weaker, not stronger. Caring about prey is a predator's greatest weakness. Normally, yes, but humans have turned it into their greatest strength. They fight harder when protecting others than when protecting themselves, and every species they liberate becomes part of their coordinated force." The reports kept coming in. Rebellion on Skeltar Prime, where the bat-like Threnodi had refused to continue their mining operations. Uprising on Vorthak Nest, where the insectoid Quith had overwhelmed their guards using tactics they had learned from intercepted human broadcasts. Liberation fleets appearing at a dozen worlds simultaneously, each one freeing another prey species. But the worst report came from Dr. Veltar herself. She had been studying captured human soldiers on multiple worlds, and her findings were terrifying. "Your Majesty," she said, via hologram from her research station, "I have determined how the humans are spreading their resistance. They're not just freeing our prey species, they're teaching them." "Teaching them what?" "How to be human." The Emperor's massive form shifted on his throne. "Explain." "Humans have a concept they call human rights. The idea that all intelligent beings deserve freedom, dignity, and protection. But they don't limit this to their own species. When they encounter any intelligent being, they immediately extend these rights to them." Dr. Veltar activated a recording showing human soldiers on Helix 7. They were helping Helani children who had been injured during the fighting, sharing their food with elderly Helani who were too weak to work, and teaching young Helani how to read. "They're making our prey species think like humans," she continued, "teaching them to value freedom, to coordinate resistance, to protect the weak. But most importantly, they're teaching them that they have the right to fight back." Thaskmor watched the recording in growing horror. The humans weren't just conquering worlds, and they were changing the fundamental nature of the galaxy itself. They were turning prey into something new. How many worlds have they liberated? 47, as of this morning. And the rebellions are spreading faster than they can reach new systems. Species who have never met humans are rising up because they've heard the liberation broadcasts. The Emperor stood and walked to the great window overlooking his capital city. Below, he could see Karathi citizens going about their daily lives, unaware that their entire civilization was under threat. They still believed in the natural order. Predators ruled, prey served, and nothing would ever change. "Double the guard on all breeding worlds," he ordered, and begin recruitment from the outer colonies. If the humans want a war for the entire galaxy, they'll have one. But even as he gave the orders, Thaskamore knew that traditional tactics wouldn't work against an enemy like this. The humans weren't trying to replace the Empire with their own dominance. They were trying to end the concept of dominance entirely. On the liberated world of Sorrow's End, formerly a Karathi hunting preserve, Colonel Chen stood before a gathering of freed creatures from a dozen different species. Helani workers, Quith miners, Threnodi scouts, and others who had lived as prey for generations. "I know this is all new and frightening," she said through the universal translator the humans had developed. "You've lived under their rule for so long that freedom itself seems impossible. But I want you to understand something important. You were never really prey." A elderly Helani raised one of his 4 arms. "But we are weak. We have no claws, no natural weapons. How can we fight the predators?" Sarah smiled. "The same way humans learned to fight them, not with claws or fangs, but with something more powerful: cooperation. When you work together, when you protect each other, when you refuse to let anyone hurt your people, you become stronger than any individual predator." She gestured to the mixed group before her. "Look around you. Helani and Quith and Threnodi working together. Your former masters kept you separated because they knew that together you were dangerous to them. They were right to be afraid." Over the following weeks, something unprecedented happened throughout the liberated territories. Species that had been bred for docility began to change. Not physically, that would take generations. But psychologically, they began to think of themselves as beings with rights rather than property. Helani engineers designed new defensive fortifications. Quith technicians developed better communication systems. Threnodi scouts provided intelligence on remaining Karathi positions. Most importantly, they all began to see themselves as part of a larger community, one that included not just their own species, but all intelligent life. The transformation wasn't limited to former prey species. On worlds throughout Karathi space, predator species began to question the natural order. Young Skalani assassins refused orders to hunt sentient beings. Forthak soldiers deserted rather than participate in culling ceremonies. Even some Karathi began to wonder if their empire was built on a lie. Dr. Veltar documented all of it from her mobile laboratory. She had become obsessed with understanding the humans, and what she learned filled her with a mixture of terror and fascination. "They're not trying to become the new apex predators," she reported to War Commander Zethkar. "They're trying to eliminate the concept of apex predators entirely. They want to create a galaxy where no species dominates others." "That's impossible," Zethkar replied. "The strong will always rule the weak. It's the way of nature." "Is it? Look at what they've accomplished. 47 worlds liberated, hundreds of species working together, an entire section of our territory in open rebellion. They've done all of this not through individual strength, but through cooperation." Dr. Veltar pulled up her analysis of human psychology. "I've identified the key difference between humans and every other species we've encountered. We think in terms of us versus them, predator versus prey, strong versus weak, our species versus other species. But humans think in terms of us versus the problem." "What do you mean?" "When humans see suffering, they don't ask, 'Is this my species suffering?' They ask, 'How do we stop the suffering?' When they see injustice, they don't ask, 'Does this affect my people?' They ask, 'How do we fix this?' They've extended their pack loyalty to include every intelligent being in the galaxy. The implications were staggering. If humans could teach other species to think the same way, the Empire's entire foundation would crumble. The natural order that had governed the galaxy for millennia would be replaced by something entirely new. "They're not conquering us," Dr. Veltar whispered. "They're converting us, and I'm not sure we can stop them." Meanwhile, Emperor Thaskamore was learning the same lesson from his military commanders. Every battle report brought worse news. Not just defeats, but defections. Not just liberated worlds, but transformed civilizations. The humans were doing more than winning a war. They were changing what it meant to be intelligent life in the galaxy. The final battle began not with a massive fleet engagement, but with a single transmission broadcast across every world in the Karathi Empire. Emperor Thaskamor listened to it from his throne on Apex Prime, surrounded by the last of his loyal forces. "People of the galaxy," came the voice of President Chen from Earth. "This is a message for every intelligent being, predator and prey alike. The age of domination is ending. Today, we offer you a choice." The transmission showed images from hundreds of liberated worlds, former prey species working alongside their liberators, building new civilizations based on cooperation rather than conquest. Predator species who had abandoned the hunt to join the growing alliance. "You can continue to live by the old rules, the strong ruling the weak, predators hunting prey, might making right. Or you can join us in building something new. A galaxy where every intelligent being has value, where strength is used to protect rather than exploit, where no one is prey." Thaskamor shut off the transmission, but he knew it was too late. The message was being received on every world, in every language, by every species. And worse, many of them were listening. "Your Majesty," War Commander Zethkar approached the throne. "The human fleet has been detected at the edge of our system, but they're not alone." The tactical display activated, showing the approaching armada. Thaskamor stared in disbelief. The fleet stretched across thousands of miles of space, but it wasn't just human ships. Vessels from dozens of species flew in perfect formation. Halani construction ships converted to carriers, Quith mining vessels equipped with weapons, even some Skilani stealthcraft and Vorthak hive ships. "How many ships?" he asked. "Over 10,000, Your Majesty, and they're moving in perfect coordination." Perfect coordination. That was the key to everything the humans had accomplished. Individual predators, no matter how powerful, couldn't match the coordinated effort of hundreds of species working together. "We still have the planetary defense grid," Zethkar continued. "Apex Prime has never fallen to any attack." But even as he spoke, reports were coming in from across the planet. Uprisings in the prey quarters, predator nobles refusing orders to fight, entire military units laying down their weapons and requesting safe passage off-world. The Empire was collapsing from within. "I want to speak with their leader," Thaskamor announced. "Face to face. If they want to end this war, they can face me in personal combat." The request was transmitted to the approaching fleet. To everyone's surprise, it was accepted. 2 hours later, Colonel Sarah Chen stood in the Emperor's throne room. She had come alone, as tradition demanded, carrying only her sidearm and wearing standard military dress. Around the vast hall, Karathi, nobles watched from the shadows, waiting to see their emperor destroy this small human female. Thaskamor studied her as she approached. She was even smaller than he had expected, barely 6 feet tall, maybe 150 pounds. No claws, no fangs, no scales for protection. She looked like the perfect prey animal, but her eyes held no fear. She looked at him with the calm confidence of a predator who knew exactly what she was doing. "You wanted to meet me," she said simply. "Here I am." "I wanted to understand what we're facing," Thaskamor replied, rising from his throne. At his full height, he towered over her, a 12-foot mountain of muscle, claws, and teeth. "You've destroyed an empire that has ruled for 10,000 years. I need to know how." Sarah looked around the throne room, taking in the displays of conquered worlds, the skulls of prey species, the monuments to Karathi dominance. "You want to know how we beat you? You beat yourselves." "Explain." "You built your entire civilization on a lie. You told yourselves that might makes right, that the strong deserve to rule the weak, that predators are naturally superior to prey, but you forgot something important." She stepped closer, unafraid of his massive form. "You forgot that intelligence changes everything. When you gave your prey species the ability to think, to communicate, to understand their situation, you gave them the tools to free themselves. You just made sure they never learned how to use those tools. And you taught them. We showed them what they already had. Every intelligent being has the capacity for cooperation, for protecting others, for choosing what's right over what's easy. You spent thousands of years teaching them they were helpless. We spent a few months showing them they were strong. Thaskamore felt rage building in his chest. This small creature was lecturing him about strength, about natural order. You think, your philosophy can stand against raw power, he snarled. Let me show you what real predators are capable of. He activated the combat arena controls and the floor around them shifted, creating a circular fighting space. The watching nobles moved closer, eager to see their emperor tear apart this insolent prey animal. Single combat, Thaskamore announced. If you win, my forces will surrender. If I win, your fleet withdraws and never returns to our space. Sarah nodded calmly. Agreed. The combat began immediately. Thaskamore lunged forward with predatory speed, claws extended to tear through her. Soft human flesh. But Sarah wasn't there when his claws arrived. She had rolled aside, drawing her sidearm and firing 3 shots into his flank. The energy bolts barely scratched his armored scales, but they got his attention. He spun toward her, electromagnetic senses tracking her movement. She was fast for a prey animal, but not fast enough to escape a true predator. He pounced again, and again she evaded him. But this time she had pulled something from her belt, a small device that she threw at his feet. It exploded in a burst of intense light, temporarily blinding his enhanced senses. By the time his vision cleared, she had climbed onto his back and was doing something to the base of his skull. He felt a brief sting, then nothing. Neural disruptor, she explained as he collapsed, paralyzed but conscious. We developed it specifically for dealing with larger predator species, non-lethal, but effective. She stood over his prone form, looking down at the mightiest predator in the galaxy. You want to know the difference between us? You fight for dominance, we fight for survival. You fight alone, we fight together. You fight to prove you're stronger. We fight to protect everyone who can't protect themselves. The watching nobles shifted restlessly. Their emperor had been defeated by a tiny prey animal using tools and tactics. It was impossible, but it had happened before their eyes. But most importantly, Sarah continued, you fight because you enjoy it. We fight because we have to, and we're very, very good at things we have to do. The paralysis wore off after a few minutes, but Thaskamore made no move to continue the fight. He had learned what he needed to know. The humans weren't just another predator species trying to replace his empire. They were something entirely new, predators who hunted cruelty itself. What happens now? He asked. That's up to you. You can keep fighting, keep trying to hold on to the old ways, and watch your civilization destroy itself. Or you can help us, build something better. And what would that be? Sarah activated a small holographic projector, showing him images from the liberated worlds. Former predator and prey species working together, building new cities, exploring new worlds, creating art and literature and music together. We call it the Terran Accord. Every intelligent species has a voice. Every being has rights that can't be taken away. Strength is used to protect the weak, not exploit them. And no one, no individual, no species, no empire, gets to decide that others exist only to serve them. Thaskamore stared at the images. It was everything his civilization had been built to prevent. The natural order completely overturned. Prey and predator as equals. This is madness, he whispered. Maybe, Sarah admitted. But it's the kind of madness that turns slaves into citizens, prey into people, and enemies into allies. It's the kind of madness that says every life has value, that every being deserves a chance at happiness, that cooperation is stronger than domination. She knelt beside him, speaking quietly. Your empire ruled through fear because you never met anything that was more afraid for others than for itself. But humans have been protecting each other since before we had claws or fangs or scales. We learned that the pack survives when every member of the pack matters. Even former enemies? Sarah smiled. Especially former enemies. Because if you can turn an enemy into an ally, you've just doubled your strength. Over the following hours, reports came in from across the galaxy. Karathi fleets were surrendering. Predator nobles were requesting amnesty in exchange for helping liberate their own prey populations. Entire worlds were declaring their intention to join the Terran Accord. The age of predators and prey was ending. Something new was beginning. Emperor Thaskamor stood on the balcony of his palace, looking out over Apex Prime for the last time as its ruler. Tomorrow, he would be just another citizen of the new galactic community. The thought terrified him, but it also filled him with something he had never felt before: curiosity about what came next. Behind him, Sarah Chen worked with former Karathi officials to plan the transition. She moved among them easily, treating former enemies as potential partners, showing them the same respect she showed her own people. "How do you do it?" Thaskamor asked her. "How do you trust beings who were trying to kill you yesterday?" "Because," Sarah replied, "we believe that everyone can change. Everyone can choose to be better than they were. Even Apex,